Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
I arrived 15 minutes before the hearing. Coat collar turned up, hat low, no entourage, no driver. Just me, Nicole Jenkins. Not the daughter, not the sister. Just a woman who clawed her way up from the ashes her family left her in. The courtroom smelled of varnished wood and stale perfume. My heels clicked once against the floor, then silence on the carpet. I sat in the last row, my usual place in their lives. I watched as Ralph, my brother, the beloved one, adjusted his tie nervously at the defendant's table, flanked by a polished attorney and our mother, Lorraine, her pearls straining against her throat like a noose. "She's not coming," she whispered to Ralph, glancing at the door. "She never shows up." I smiled, small, sharp. That was the point. The judge entered. Papers shuffled. Proceedings began. Then, a pause. His eyes scanned the room, halted on me. Recognition flickered like a struck match. "Mayor Nicole Jenkins?" he asked, voice taut with disbelief. The entire room turned. Gasps fluttered like moths. Ralph's jaw slackened. Lorraine's face lost all color. I rose slowly. "Present, Your Honor." As a private citizen. The judge cleared his throat, composed himself. "Noted." But it wasn't. Everything changed. The room held its breath. The air bent differently now. Ralph leaned toward our mother. "She's the mayor?" "I thought you lost that race," Lorraine hissed. "I didn't. I'd won by 1.4 million votes. The entire city knew. Except them." I sat back down, letting the silence settle like dust on old regrets. They had erased me, forgotten me, laughed at my dreams, but now they would remember every word they once threw like knives. Not because I said a thing, but because I didn't have to. And in that last row, I became the one seat no one could ignore. The courtroom buzzed like a disturbed hive after my identity was revealed. Reporters slipped in quietly, and even a stenographer sat up straighter. The judge called for a short recess, clearly needing time to recalibrate. I stayed seated, eyes forward. Not a word. Across the aisle, Lorraine stared at me as though I were a ghost. Her mouth moved, but no sound reached me. Ralph turned, eyes narrowed. He whispered something to his lawyer, then glanced over his shoulder, meeting my gaze for the first time in a decade. He looked just like our father when he was caught lying, defensive, arrogant, and small. During the break, I stood and walked slowly to the corridor. I didn't need to stretch. I needed them to see I wasn't hiding. I passed Ralph and Lorraine without a glance. "Nikki," she whispered sharply, grabbing my wrist. "What is this? Some twisted power play?" I looked at her hand, then at her. "No. Just family support," I said calmly, freeing myself. I left her there, mouth half open, the queen of entitlement unthroned by one sentence. Back in the courtroom, the atmosphere shifted. The judge returned with a different tone, measured, wary. He recused himself immediately, citing an unforeseen conflict of interest. But we all knew what that meant. Power had entered the room, and the scales had tipped. I sat in silence, letting it speak, letting them stew in the weight of what they'd ignored for years. Me, outside, the press circled like wolves. "Mayor Jenkins," a comment. "Why were you here today? Is this related to your brother's trial?" I gave them nothing, a nod, a closed-lipped smile. Then I was gone. That evening, I poured a glass of wine and turned off my phone. The headlines were already spreading. "Mayor attends brother's trial, no statement issued." Good. Let the world wonder. Let them wonder. Because silence in the right hands is louder than 1,000 speeches. The first call came just past midnight. I was brushing my teeth, wearing the old college sweatshirt they once mocked me for, when my phone lit up with a name I hadn't seen in years. Mom. I let it ring. Then another, this time Ralph. Then again, and again, like a scratch record stuck on regret. I finally answered on the 5th call, not out of mercy, but curiosity. "Nicole, please," Lorraine began. Her voice trembled, threaded with desperation. "They're talking about jail time. You know how the press is. This will ruin his life." I sat at my kitchen counter, calmly sipping water. "Didn't seem to bother you when you were telling relatives I'd never amount to anything." "Don't be cruel," she snapped. "This isn't about the past." "It's always been about the past," I said, voice even. "It's the reason you only call when you need something." There was a pause, then a sigh. "He's your brother." "No," I said slowly. He was your golden boy, and now he's just an adult with a record. She hung up. The next morning, Ralph tried. Nikki, come on, he said when I picked up. I made mistakes, yeah. But you're the mayor. A call from you could make this disappear. I walked to the window. Rain streaked down the glass, soft and relentless. And where were you when they laughed at my campaign? When you told Dad I was embarrassing the family? He was silent. Actions have consequences, Ralph. I didn't make you drive drunk. I won't erase it. You think you're better than us now, he growled. No, I said quietly. I always was. You just refused to see it. I ended the call. That night, I stared at the blinking screen. More missed calls, more voicemails. I deleted them all. They had erased me once, but I had rewritten the narrative. And now, I refused to be their footnote. A week after the trial, my inbox lit up with a message from Judge Halberd. Mayor Jenkins, your silent presence altered the temperature of that courtroom in a way words never could. We'll be studying it in judicial ethics seminars. Respectfully, thank you. I read it twice, not because I needed the validation, but because it was poetic. The same silence they once interpreted as weakness had become a legal case study. My silence had spoken louder than their insults ever did. Meanwhile, the media storm grew. Mayors shavesly change Hugo UR to rewum APGARANC STWNS FANMI law GBG. The woman they DIS Billing AD, now their PWIC Rec. I refused every interview. I didn't need to speak. The headlines were doing it for me. But the calls didn't stop. This time it was Aunt Virginia, the same one who once said I'd wither without a man or money. Nicole, darling, she cooed over speakerphone. We all make mistakes in youth, but family is family. Maybe if you could call the judge and ask for leniency. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the city skyline through my office window. Funny, Aunt Guinea. I don't remember anyone calling me when I was sleeping in my car between campaign stops. Don't be bitter, she huffed. We're trying to repair things. I smiled. You're not repairing. You're bargaining with someone you once threw away. Click. Every plea was the same. Shallow concern coded in entitlement. They still saw me as a daughter, a niece, a sister, not as the woman I had become. Not as Mayor Nicole Jenkins, whose policies restructured public housing, who reduced citywide hospital wait times by 38%, who walked through fire without looking back. And Ralph, he still hadn't learned. I heard from a reporter that he was ranting about how I ruined his life. But I didn't ruin anything. I simply stopped saving people who never showed up for me. Let the legend grow. Let them talk. I wasn't part of their story anymore. At the inauguration ceremony, the assembly hall erupted in applause as Judge Halberd took the stage. And lastly, he said, scanning the crowd, thanks to the mayor, Nicole Jenkins, whose silence reminded us all of the weight integrity carries in a courtroom. History will remember her, even if her own family tried not to. Her courtroom presence will be studied for years to come. There was a standing ovation. I didn't rise. Later that night, Ralph was waiting outside my building, his hands jammed into his hoodie pockets, eyes brimming with rage. You watched me sink, he snapped. You could have stopped it. I tilted my head. I didn't make you drink and drive, Ralph. I'm your brother. No, I said coldly. I was your family when it was convenient. Now I'm a consequence. He muttered something under his breath and stormed off. Inside, I turned on the lamp in my study. The soft light glinted off 2 frames on my bookshelf. The first, a photo of me at 8, gap-toothed and clutching a homemade award that no one in my family came to see. The second, my mayoral inauguration portrait, sharp suit, calm eyes, silent power. My phone buzzed again. Mom calling. I stared at the screen. Then I blocked the number. I leaned back in my chair and whispered, more to myself than anyone else. They erased me from their story. So I wrote myself into history.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.